is how can we combine two of our flagship indicators, which are SuperTrend Bulls Eye and Volume IQ. Now, Nick is going to elaborate on this, but really quick, what are these two indicators all about? Let's start with SuperTrend Bulls Eye. It is a variation of the original SuperTrend indicator. Chances are you've heard about this indicator before. It's one of the most influential trend trading indicators. And the way it works, it gives you these long entry signals and short entry signals whenever the indicator detects a change in trend. So whenever an uptrend reverses into a downtrend, the indicator will give you a signal. And vice versa, when there was a downtrend which reverses into an uptrend, you'll get the signal. The indicator is also equipped with what we call a trailing stop. Look at this green line here, which is a stop loss, which is only tightened but never loosened for long trades, and here the red line for short trades. It's only tightened, never loosened. And the way this indicator works is whenever we break this stop loss, a trend reversal happens. This is how the indicator works. But of course, you may say, all right, cool indicator, but it lives or dies with the correct selection of how far this trading stop should be away from price. And you're absolutely right. This selection is absolutely crucial. And you can make this indicator work really, really well or really, really poorly by having a wrong selection for the trading stop. And we recognize this as well. This seems not so easy to figure out. How should we adjust this trading stop, especially if you do it manually? Well, this is why we have developed a variation of this SuperTrend indicator called SuperTrend Bulls Eye, which does two things. First off, it will automatically select the distance of the trading stop for you based on what would have worked best historically speaking. So the indicator does this automatically for you. And whenever you change time frame or symbol, a new setting for the trading stop will be used. A new distance for the trading stop will be used. That's number one, what this indicator does. And secondly, it will also show you, and Nicholas has an example of this in a second, it will also show you how well or how poorly it has worked historically speaking by means of an info box. This is what our SuperTrend Bulls Eye indicator does. So it's called SuperTrend Bulls Eye. So, okay, you may say, okay, this is fantastic, great indicator. I want to trade with it. But you know what? There's always something you can do in addition to further, I guess, filter out trades. What could this certain something be? And we believe volume IQ or volume IQ indicator or volume profile indicator could be this extra piece which you can use to further filter your signals. Of course, a volume IQ is our volume profile indicator showing you the zone of control, the most heavily traded price region, and of course, also the regions which are perhaps not so heavily traded. But also show you what is the current market sentiment, either bullish or bearish, and what does the volume say about, are there more buyers at certain price levels or perhaps more sellers in control? All right, now, but the question is, of course, how could we actually combine these two indicators? So how can SuperTrend Bulls Eye and Volume IQ be combined? And Niklas has thought about this quite a bit. And Niklas, would you like to take over and maybe perhaps spend 5 to 10 minutes to show us how this can work?
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Just going to enable it real quick. There we go. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. One moment. Okay, can you see my slide here, Daniel?
I build it 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Yes, we can see it. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, like Daniel was saying, this pack, we call it the Trend Authority Pack, and it's combining SuperTrend Bulls Eye and Volume IQ. So there's a couple of reasons we think these indicators go well together, and they logically do go quite well together. So we can see here on this chart, for example, we got a super trend entry signal with a super trend trailing stop, and that entry signal also being supported by a zone of control. So this was just a nice chart. I think this was on Bitcoin back in the day, or it might have been micro NASDAQ, but I do think at the speed it was moving here, this was a Bitcoin 30-minute or 1-hour chart. So the idea behind this combination is that SuperTrend Bulls Eye is the indicator telling us what's the trend. Now, the thing about a trend signal, so for example, let's take a look at this signal right here on SuperTrend Bulls Eye. There was some market volatility in the morning around 9:30. I think this is a 15-minute chart of micro NASDAQ or 30-minute chart. And During that market volatility, we see an indicator like SuperTrend Bullseye kind of get faked out with a signal that doesn't work out so well. Now, what we found, or what if you think about it logically with something like SuperTrend, is that price movement doesn't always necessarily mean full-on market participation, right? So just because there's a lot of volatility as price finds its bearings on this one time frame at the market open, doesn't mean that because we hit this long trade stop right here, that all of a sudden it's the best idea to go short. SuperTrend Bullseye, though, is a reversing indicator. It's an always, I think that's what it's called, Daniel, always in the market strategy.
Exactly.
So it's never going to be flat. It's always going to be long or short unless you set it to only take long trades or only take short trades, which the indicator does come with as an option. So what we want to look for then is, well, what's some other information we can find on the chart that can help us decide if one of these signals is confluent or supported by other things happening in the market. And I found that volume IQ is a really good indicator for this, and we'll see that there's actually a way we can look at it in the opposite direction too. But generally, what you'll do is look at SuperTrend Bullseye, wait for a signal from that to see, okay, well, what's the general trend direction, and where can we set our risk with a trailing stop based on the statistics from SuperTrend Bullseye. But to decide if we're going to take the signal volume IQ, we're going to check that to see, well, is the market also supporting this with other factors, with something like a large amount of buyers or sellers, or a zone of control, which is going to be the main factor we're going to look at, which is basically if we're above the zone of control, like in this chart right here, when this short signal came in, we would have been above the zone of control, which is this level 2 zone right here from volume IQ. That would have told us that actually bulls are in control of the market on this time frame, generally speaking, over the look back period. And perhaps it's not that great of an idea to go short until the zone of control is broken to the downside, in which case things will be a little bit more bearish. So we can see where this signal came in. There was buyers, zone of control beneath us. These are bullish things that can't contradict or go against the suggested direction from SuperTrend, whereas this long signal that came in would be supported by what volume IQ is showing us. And we can see here it tended to play out a little bit better. So when they both agree, kind of like with the 1IQ setups, it's like having a second layer of confirmation or defense. It's confluence. So the idea, basically, this is actually, I'll get to a chart in a second, but this is the Russell, micro Russell M2K, I believe, from this morning on the 5-minute chart. So step one is you're going to wait for a SuperTrend Bullseye signal. So here, for example, we got a SuperTrend long signal, and then we check volume IQ. Is the center of the zone of control, or the zone of control in general, beneath the price of the signal, which would have been on this bar, the close of this candle? If it is below price for a long trade, well, that's giving us extra confirmation that the long trade might work out. And if it's above price for a short trade, that's going to give us some bearish confirmation. So we could see here on this signal, and if you saw what happened to the Russell today, we'll see it in a sec, this really took off quite far to the upside after this point in time. And volume IQ is giving this signal some extra fuel there, with us seeing, okay, there's a block of buyers here on the right-hand side. The bias or the sentiment is for buyers in this zone, and we're above the zone of control, which is also a bullish factor in our favor. So volume confirms, take the trade, else skip the trade. So here on this example, we can see a short signal come in from SuperTrend Bullseye. Perhaps SuperTrend Bullseye had very good win rates for the short trades historically. But when this short trade came in, the zone of control from volume IQ was actually beneath price, which is bullish. These two things counteract. We see once that signal came in on this bar, it went a little bit further down, dipped into that general zone of control right there before then pulling up against us. And I think this was the end of this chart. For all we know, it'll end up being a successful, profitable short trade, but it would have been one that we could filter easily with this information, at least to stop us from getting this kind of high probability chance of getting some drawdown here, right? Price came down, there was support. That's not bullish. And SuperTrend, as we said, does not give all of the market context. Okay, so let's now look at some charts. So here actually are some examples. Start here. Micro NASDAQ on the 5-minute. This is this morning at 6 a.m. Now this short trade here played out very well. on most of the super trend settings, we would find that short trade to some extent would be taken. It worked out quite decently. There was some move downwards, but we can see here this trade wouldn't have been supported by what we're talking about, right? The zone of control would have been below price. So this is more of a guideline, more so than it is confirming, of course, that it's definitely going to mean the trade's going to move in a certain direction. You can never be fully certain, but it's nice to have some confluent signals and information from different indicators, right? So here's an example of one from this morning on the 5-minute from micro NASDAQ. So we can see price coming up to this super trend trailing stop line, and we are now above the zone of control. We can see it's gone blue. We've regained this big important zone area of contention where the market's kind of battling out for bullish or bearish dominance. And as we break through that trailing stop loss, we're going to get a long signal, I believe. And when we do, this would be one of those signals we were talking about, where now we've got the volume IQ confirmation that there's quite a bit of support and volume beneath us. Things are going in the favor of bulls. And in this case, of course, if you were watching it this morning, I think this ends up playing out. Oh yeah, here. Okay, this is what I wanted to show. So price came up. We came back down, we dipped out, we got stopped out. There's some sort of profit here, but now look at this big losing short trade. We wouldn't have taken this short trade. This was what I wanted to point out. Why? Because when that short signal came in, we were not in a position where the zone of control was above price, right? We got a short and price was coming down into what volume IQ suggests is probably going to act as support. And what happens? Well, even though actually, there wasn't that great of a short win rate. Even if we did have a high short win rate, this would have been a good one to consider ignoring because of the information volume IQ gave us. Super trend just reacted to morning volatility. Look, 850 going into the open, and it ends up being wrong. This ended up being noise. Then another long signal comes in. The zone of control is beneath price. That's something we would consider as bullish. And look what happens. That move gets taken upwards. So out of these 3 trades that happened today, the one that would have been filtered out would have been the short one, according to that logic. And we can kind of see something nice happening there in favor of that way of thinking. And here for this short, we also would have ignored this short. I'm not sure what ends up happening. Once with those settings, price still, there would have been a lot of drawdown on that short signal.
I think it's clear how the indicator or these 2 indicators can be combined with one another, but let's answer some questions. Senna wants to know, is this a new version of SuperTrend? Actually, it's our version of SuperTrend, which improves on the existing SuperTrend indicator, Senna, by integrating auto optimization, which gives you much more precise entry signals, and this statistics pan on the top right corner showing you directly on your price chart what, historically speaking, has been the win rate for these signals. And this actually brings up another question by Hugh. What is the look back period for that panel? So this can be customized by, in this case, it's 3,000 bars. And TradingView, there's an upper limit to this because otherwise the indicator will time out. But if you are on ModifWave or on NinjaTrader, for example, you can go back like 10,000 bars or even more. There's no limit to that. Senna wants to know, is this indicator available on ModifWave? Yes, it is. It works fantastic on ModifWave. And as I mentioned, on ModifWave, there's no limit on how many bars you want to go back. What is the zone of control of the volume profile indicator? Yeah, it's a bit hard to see, but it's this big box there with the number 2 on it. That's what we call the zone of control. And don't worry about these labels on there. It's basically the highest volume node, the one that sticks out the most. It's the biggest node sticking out to the left-hand side. That's your zone of control. This is the most heavily contested price region. And oftentimes, if price approaches this level from the upside, it will act as support. Note that we do have a special offer put together for you, which we call the Trend Authority Pack, which, as you may imagine, combines SuperTrend Bulls Eye and Volume IQ. So if you're interested in getting these 2 indicators at a special offer, all you need to do is to go to tradingindicators.com/2026 and remember the word Trend Authority Pack. And once you are on that page, This is the page, tradingindicators.com/26. You scroll down a little bit, and you can see all the different packages that we put together for you. And if you go all the way down to this point here, you will see the Trend Authority pack featuring SuperTrend Bulls Eye and Volume IQ, and also a special price offer for exactly this bundle. Of course, you have other bundles too here as well, like the Market IQ pack, our IQ Core pack, Market Sentiment pack, and so forth. So I invite you to perhaps read through it, check out the description, and see if this special offer is something that you may want to consider. We're also offering, as part of our current New Year's promotion, a 25% discount on our individual indicators like liquidity IQ, MA volume IQ, and so forth. And all you need to do for to take advantage of this is to enter the discount code 2026 on your checkout form.